Hello everyone, and welcome back to Crit and Crit. I'm Sint.
I'm Axion.
And we are continuing our discussion of Brian Jake's Mariel of Redwall while, Spider Eyes, we play through Undertale. Now, I have to say, in some regards, the Redwall series is kind of ahead of its time.
How so?
You know how nowadays we have, like, smart devices and Alexa, hi, Spider, that, respond to things when you're not actually trying to talk to them, and it's just like, no, I don't want you to play Despacito right now, can you just leave me alone, go unplug the device. Now, but instead of Alexa, they have Martin. Yeah. A recurring trend in the Redwall series following, Martin's death is that the spirit of Martin the Warrior frequently shows up to meddle and tell people to go do things. He's oddly well informed for someone who's been dead this long.
And oddly active in a world that seems to otherwise have no magic.
Yep. Like, there's not really any supernatural elements in Redwall other than, the talking mice. But they have this persistent haunting that keeps happening at the most convenient times. Like, we talked about this quite at length when we discussed Redwall itself, when Matthias had him appear to him. But I think he's actually implied to be a reincarnation, I'm not quite sure. Which would be another kind of supernatural element, but depending on your belief system.
And the thing is, he's sort of implied to be a reincarnation, but there's also the spirit of Martin haunting Clooney in his dreams. So it's very deliberately vague and...
Hi, Mettaton. Oh, Jesus. I forgot about this.
This is so much funnier if you've played Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, yes. I know. But yeah, it's such a common thing. Like, I think oftentimes, I think there's been other instances in the books where the Dibbins are like, there's a ghost, and they're like, there's no such thing as ghosts. Like, what about the spirit of Martin the Warrior? But more to the point, why does Martin happen to just show up right when he is needed to have the most vague yet specific advice that needs to be followed? How are all of these poems and prophecies that have been around, theoretically, for generations just casually lying around waiting to be found? And why do even people who aren't connected to Redwall feel compelled to listen to Martin?
And in this book we have an excellent example of that with both Mariel, who happens to be at Redwall at the time, but is not from Redwall, again, despite the title of the book. And at the very end of the book, Ronblade, the Lord of Salamandastron.
Now, in Ronblade's defense, he would, have worked in conjunction with Redwall often enough to know about the place, and has probably heard of Martin the Warrior. Mariel, on the other hand, when she, first arrives at Redwall, is an amnesiac, and takes quite some time recovering her memory, but even then, has never been to Redwall before, and I don't think has any idea who Martin is. So, like, with Ronblade, you can understand why he would take Martin's advice.
Right.
Mariel, less so. Like, if you had this vision of just this random person telling you, you need to go here and do the thing, would you go here and do the thing? not having a good time with this, it seems.
I got stuck in a corner.
Shocking.
Oh no, there's fire. Alphys? Where are you, Alphys?
Watching anime. They did it on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, what does this say with regards to personal agency when you have just this semi-omniscient spirit who seems to just predetermine all these things for them and then just expect them to follow through? Like, yes, they theoretically have a choice to follow or not follow these instructions, but they never seem to think that. Like, they seem to expect that they have to do this. And what does that do for agency and free will?
I mean, there's the, they're not taking complete control, like he's not puppeting them around, with the possible exception of Simeon, since the whole thing happened to him he was kind of in this dream trance, where he was being led around, and of course Simeon is blind, so how did he see Martin to begin with?
No, I'm wondering if he's only recently blind. Well, okay, recently, but like not born blind, so he can still, process like what sight and color used to be. I don't know. They never say. We just know that as of the plot, he is currently blind. Bye, Mettaton. But yeah, like it's just especially odd that Mariel falls into line with this so quickly, because every minute Mariel has been visible in the book, she has very much demonstrated that she takes no orders from no one, unless she wants to. Like, she listens to the language roll because, well, she respects them. So, of course, she's going to take their advice.
And
the
even
instant
when she first meets them, she's like, I'm not going to take orders from you. And then it's like, they help her fight the toads, and she's like, okay, you've earned my respect. I will take your advice.
Yeah. Yeah, Mariel is usually very careful to retain her agency. She's like, this is going to be on my terms. Like, the instant Packatug turns on her, she bonks him on the head with her rope because he mistreated her. This is not a passive background character who's just going to do whatever she's told, and yet, the instant Martin enters the picture, she's on the rails, doing exactly what Martin wants her to do. So, I don't know, it's really easy to see Martin as kind of a sinister figure in this regard. Like, yeah, he's their hero, but isn't he, now a reason that they don't have to actually worry about solving their own problems because they can just wait for the spirit of Martin the warrior to show up? Hi, Sans. You should go up the creepy alleyway on the right.
No, I'd rather talk to Sans. But yeah, and admittedly, it does fall a little bit under the category of it's something I was going to do anyway, because this is after she's had her trance, where she's relearned her own history and recovered from her amnesia, and she's like, no, I'm gonna go fight Gabul. I'm gonna go rescue my father and finish what I started, and nobody in Redwall is gonna stop me. And Martin is basically just saying, hey, take Dandin with you, he'll help. Which, on the one hand, you could definitely say is just her just doing what she was going to do anyway and taking the advice of somebody who already is telling her do what you were going to do, but do it. Here's some help. Which is basically the same thing that happened with the Long Patrol. On the other hand, when you add in everything else that Martin's ghost does during this part of the story, it starts to feel more like, as you said, Martin kind of taking the agency away by arranging things so that they go the way he is setting up to and including eventually concluding with Ron Blade getting a get-out-of-jail-free card at the very end from Martin. So it's very much a matter of kind of how you read it.
Yeah, and admittedly, I'm not reading this as a kid anymore. Like,
Exactly.
I haven't done that in quite some time. But, like, as an adult, like, who's able to notice trends across the franchise, every time Martin shows up, you know that no one is going to question this.
Yep.
At all. And, like, there's nothing that really seems to indicate what's going to prompt Martin to show up either. Because, like, you'd think that, like, hey, wouldn't it be helpful if Martin would appear to, you know, the defenders who are staying at the Abbey so they can, you know, get rid of the pirates? Nope, we're just gonna appear to the teenagers who are running off with the sword. Even though I'm pretty sure at that point, the people at the Abbey could have used a little more direct guidance. Because, you know, that might have actually saved a couple people's lives.
Yep. The Abbey, at the time that these four are running off to go fight Gabul, which admittedly does need to be done, and eventually results in Joseph's rebellion getting off the ground and Ron Blade finding a way to get to Terramore Island and all that stuff, basically the entire last third of the book the entire rest of the story is people in Redwall who are essentially helpless and now stripped of some of their a couple of their best warriors with the loss of Dandon, who's remarkably good at sword fighting for somebody who's been raised in the Abbey, as seems to be a recurring incident. And then the hare's name escaped me.
Tarquin?
Tarquin, yeah. Being ex-Long Patrol and being just a hare, and it seeming to be a thing for hares in this world, that he's a good fighter in his own bizarre way. Redwall is just left with... Thanks, Sans. Redwall is just left with Melis and a few squirrels who are decent fighters, and then just numbers, with the various members of the Abbey doing what little they can to defend until the 3 Long Patrol hares finally show up. So we end up with the Abbey under this severe danger from Greypatch and his forces. And while things do work out in the long run, it's certainly not certainly not without cost, especially with regards to the deaths of Pakatug and the 2 Long Patrol hares, as well as the other people within Redwall who are injured, even though no one dies. But it could have very easily been much worse if the Long Patrol hadn't arrived when they did, if oh, it's these 2. Sure, I'll buy the key. Gabool had, or not Gabool, Greypatch had found a way to attack the Abbey without being attacked in return. I have no inventory space. I might come back here.
Rip.
Had found a way with the fire throwers to attack the Abbey without being able to be attacked in return because his forces were too far back to be reached by the bows that the Abbey had at the time, until the Long Patrol arrived and were able to make stronger longbows that they and Melis and the squirrels could pull that could reach the longer distance of where Greypatch's forces were set up. If they hadn't arrived when they did, the Abbey would have eventually fallen to the constant fire attacks.
Yep. So, yeah, you kind of have to wonder where Martin's priorities really lie, because they don't really seem to be focused around just protecting the Abbey. It's empowering these random kids to wander off into the woods and hopefully not get themselves killed, while carrying with them, like, one of the few treasures that the Abbey actually has. One of the few, like, dangerous weapons they actually have, nonetheless.
Yeah, that's not just a repurposed,
stick.
Or, I can't believe I managed to do that. Repurposed tools and materials that the Abbey just happened to have lying around.
Yep. So this actually raises another point of who actually gets a vision from Martin. Like in this book, a few people do. We get one for Simeon, we get one for Mariel, we get one for Dandon, and Dandon's the one I kind of want to focus on because, like Matthias in Redwall, he has a connection to Martin. His ancestor was Gomph the Mouse Thief, who was a companion of Martin's back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, with him and Matthias as basically the only two post-Martin to wield the sword, is that the criteria for using the sword? It was like, you have to have the Martin the Warrior's best friend badge? Like, I know this changes in later books, but early on, that's kind of the impression it gives, is you have to be very special to be allowed to do this. So either it just gets more lax as the series goes on, or Martin loosens up, or I don't know. But it just, you kind of get that impression of, like, Martin is very choosy about who he wants to appear to, otherwise he'd probably be doing more to actually, protect the Abbey. Or does he just, like, have selective pacifism, where, yes, I want the Abbey to live in peace, so all of the Abbey children can learn the horrors of siege warfare. Because they do. Like, every generation since Martin, when they have a sea rats attack, the kids are like, I want to go out and play. No, you can't go out and play. They're throwing fire over the walls. But I want to go out and play. You can't go out and play. We're in a siege.
So you end up with kind of a repeating cycle of this sort of thing, since the books do have a tendency to repeat themselves a little bit, at least at this early point. And it's been a long time since I've read the later books, so I don't 100% remember the order for who ends up with the sword in later books, or if there even is. If there even is a pattern to who uses the books or the sword in later books. It's been long enough since I've read so many of the books that I do not don't remember the details.
Yep. But yeah, I don't know, it's like, a lot of the books seem to very much send you the message of, like, as long as you believe in yourself and your friends, you can do almost anything, just trust in yourself and move forward. But they also undermine that with, well, you should also do whatever Martin tells you and wait for him to show up and give you guidance. So, I mean, which is it? Like, what message should the kids be learning?
Obey authority figures? But that doesn't seem
like,
right.
Mariel was gonna, Mariel was gonna leave with or without help, like preferably without help, and was willing to hit people with a rope to go do it. So I don't think obeying authority is the lesson you take from Mariel. She ends up doing what Martin tells her, but mostly because it's convenient for her, not because she actually.
Yeah, it's because it's what she was going to do anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's just like the book seems very muddled when it comes to glorifying your own initiative versus obedience versus anyone can be special versus no, only these specific people are allowed to be special. And like even in later books, like when they start expanding who gets, important roles, it's still done with Martin's permission. So this is really what we call like a necrocracy, isn't it?
I guess? It's kind of just a weird situation of I'm taking a lot of damage.
Yep.
Oh, it messed up my controls. I didn't know it would do that. So I guess. For lack of a better word, I guess that works in that you end up with this situation where Martin's making all the calls, and it's almost more just a crud. just a force of the environment and a...
Yeah, maybe you should have listened to Martin. And you would have lived.
Ugh. Maybe there's another way other than going across that bridge. Here we go. Oh no, that's a dead end.
Hey, you got money though.
Well, I'm gonna go save that. Free money. But yeah, it feels less like a whatever you said earlier, necrocracy?
Yeah, necrocracy, rule by the dead.
Yeah. It feels less like that to me and more like more an author insert. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was a story that I read years ago where the author would regularly pop in to put the story back on the rails whenever the characters would do something that would throw things off. And I know there's going to be people in the comments that are going to go, "Oh, that's the Final Fantasy VII remake," and I'm like, on the one hand, yes, that is happening in the Final Fantasy remake. But on the other hand, that's not what I'm thinking of. This significantly predates that. But I cannot...
I'm not sure what you're talking about either, but when you said author insert, my first thought was, great, Martin is now Elminster.
But it's kind of... It's not kind of that same thing, but it is kind of that same thing.
I don't know, like, the vibe I'm getting from that sounds very Into the Woods, where the narrator is actually a major character, and then and then spoilers, the characters get sick of him just standing by and telling them what's happening instead of telling them how to fix the problem, so they kill him. And then everything goes straight off the rails.
Yeah, I think that might have been what I was thinking of. But on the other hand, yeah, no, I think that was it. Because it was... Yeah, the narrator or author or whatever steps in when things...
That also sounds a little like Pippin, but I don't think I've made you watch Pippin.
I have not seen Pippin. Or at least I don't recognize the name.
Oh yeah, the crazy circus keeps threatening the actors when they go off script, and yeah. It's fun.
But yeah, I remember... I think I was more thinking of Into the Woods. So, we're back in musical land again.
I'm not even ranting about them today. But the card like Sid doesn't rant about musicals. But yeah, I honestly don't know what else to add here.
I'm not sure there is much more to say. I think we've kind of wrapped up our last few ideas for this. And I think that wraps it up for Mariel.
Yep. So I guess after this fight, we will see you next time we decide to return to Undertale.
Yep, it'll probably be a little bit, since we have some other things to do.
Oh yes.
And
at least you've only got the one villain right now, as opposed to the 3. Oh, yay! All right.
I don't know what that did, but I am gonna run back to the save point. And yeah, that will be everything for Mariel of Redwall and this bout of Undertale. And when we come back eventually, we'll finish with the core and Mettaton and
see what happens.
Yep. And next time we'll be on to a new series. See you then.
Bye.